Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Uh, so last time, uh, we talked about a theme that I thought was really important. What was the major theme that you guys can remember? It's to do
Oh,
with,
sorry, gift.
yes, please go ahead.
No, oh, the only thing I can remember right now was something to do with gifts, but I've been doing too many that I'm just getting confused now. Which class was which? It's a bad student
Yes.
here who didn't revise.
Yeah, so that's a lovely way to introduce it exactly. The whole fuss is about gifts, right? Alhamdulillah. And it's also about the knowledge of how do you know which gifts you're going to receive because the awliya, it's very important to them that they have the knowledge of what to expect. And how do you know what to expect from what gifts you'll receive? In fact, why do you even need to receive gifts? Because it's connected to the previous chapter being Khalifatullah ala ard. In order to be Khalifatullah ala ard, the Khalifa, you have to know what assistance you're going to receive. Those are the gifts, right? Um, so how do you know what gifts you will receive? How do you know what gifts it is appropriate to ask for, right? This is through knowledge of your own ayn thabita, right? And that's connected to all sorts of other subjects. Knowledge of your own ayn thabita. But if you are not gifted with this knowledge of your ayn thabita, especially through kashaf or through Allah telling you what you have to receive in future, through knowledge of your states, then all you have is what is right in front of you. And when you take into account what you receive right in front of you, you know that's what you were destined to be gifted because everything that comes to you, now this is a second important part of the knowledge of this fuss, everything is a mirror reflection of you. So I felt like we didn't give that idea its haq last time, right? We didn't really give it its haq. So I just wanted to return to it briefly because it's a really profound idea. If in the first false we talked about how the whole cosmos is a mere reflection of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and of Allah, right? And Allah sees himself in the mirror of Insan Kamil, and Insan Kamil sees himself in the mirror of Allah, then this fuss takes a slightly different angle and shows you how everything is a reflection of your own self. And so when someone gives you something, it's actually your own self that is giving it to you, right? And that's a very profound idea. Um, I've been mulling over how best to explain it, right? So I want to think about it a bit more, but I've got this idea about the way sounds are made and musical instruments, but I don't want to get into it right now. But everything that you see around you and happens to you, that is from you. So he says this like in a number of ways. Now, this is the key to this kind of um, knowledge. It comes from the spirit of Sayyidina Shith alayhi salam. This knowledge comes from him, right? So he even gives you like the example I'm looking at right now. I hope you can see it in the screen, right? That Sayyidina Shith alayhi salam, he is the first excuse me, he is the first gift to Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, and his name means gift. Hibatullah, the gift of God. And it has at least one of those meanings in Hebrew. Now, then he says, وَمَا وَهَبُهُ إِلَّا مِنْهُ لِأَنَّ الْوَلَدَ سِرُّ أَبِيهِ. Right? And God only bestowed him from himself. That's one way to read it. But that's not the word play. That's not the word he's playing on here. Yes, God only bestowed him from himself. That's pretty obvious. That's not a great translation, actually. And see, I like to talk about the problem with the translations here, right? He's correct. It's more like he said Satan Sheath is a gift to his father, right? Now he did not gift. Sayyidina Adam was not gifted. Sayyidina Shith alayhum salam, except from himself. Except from himself. And then he says, لأن الولد سر أبيه, because the child is the secret of his father. So when the son or the daughter comes from the father, he is only coming from his own self. He's only coming from his own self. So even that is from your own perspective. It's from you, whatever it is. فمنه خرج وإليه عاد. From Allah he comes, from to Allah he returns. But also he came from Adam alayhi salam, and he'll return to him in Jannah. So if you take this knowledge and you put it into practice, all you see that happens to you in existence are gifts that are given to you, good or bad, ugly or beautiful, knowledgeable or not. It's all from you because it is what your state requires in order to manifest its realities. It is what your state requires in order to manifest its realities. There was something that came to my mind, but I forgot what it was. Yeah, ma'am, go ahead.
So when you say in order to manifest its realities, does that mean like every objective reality, even if that means that there is like a darker reality or the highest good or the highest truth in terms of like the Ainasabata?
Whatever is inside yourself, it is to bring out what is inside you, whatever it is.
What if
And
it's
that
ugly?
demonstrates who you are.
Because there are two
If it's ugly,
kinds of gifts, yes. I mean, one gift is it's innate in you, and the other one comes through asma. This is what I understood last time, no?
yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
في
Allah,
نوعين gift.
yeah. So there's the gift of the essence, al-that,
Yes, there's the
al-ilahiyya.
gift of the essence, and that's from you. And then there is the gift of the asma, which is bestowed on you.
There's the gift of the names. I mean, technically,
Or
it's
the name.
all. I mean, technically, it's from all of it is
Yeah,
from
yeah. Oh,
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
yeah,
But you could also say it's all from you. It's
yeah.
all from you.
So what's the difference between the two? Yeah,
Between
one
the
between the two kinds, because there is one I remember that's what you said. There's one that's part of you, that's given to
yes.
you. And there is another one,
Yeah.
and the other one is
Okay, so
asma.
it's about the essence and the names. That's what isma. So the isma, these are what are called the particulars, the particulars, the juziyat. Anything you receive in existence is from the asma. But the gifts of the essence are not given except by tajalliyat, through a tajalli. That's it.
Oh, can I can't stand a button. Or do you want to carry on and ask questions at the end so it just keeps moving? Or
No, I do. But there's this thing I was trying to remember. But anyways, I've forgotten it now. So I remember where we
Sorry,
stopped.
maybe
It was
could I just
yes.
I had like a second half to my question. It got cut off. I was asking these
Sure, go ahead.
realities,
Go ahead.
if it is like kind of like a ugly reality, then can that is that it, or can that be worked on and like improved upon?
No, it can be worked on, absolutely, because you have no idea what is it, like what is your actual ayn thabita until you die, until
Right.
it's the day of judgment. No, it can definitely be worked on 100%. We have no idea who we are, so we shouldn't take it for granted that if one thing happens,
Yeah.
then that's exactly who we are. No, that's not true. That's what you're saying is absolutely correct.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
no worries. Um, Okay, so let's carry on. Inshallah, alhamdulillah. Okay, this is where we stopped. Okay. Can I have someone reading, please, from فمن عرف استعداده عرف قبوله to the end of this paragraph اقتضى له الوجوب. At least one reader if possible. Yeah, go ahead, Zanira. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فمن عرف استعداده وعرف قبوله وما كل من عرف قبوله يعرف استعداده إلا بعد القبول، وإن كان يعرفه مجملا، إلا أن بعض أهل النظر من أصحاب العقول الضعيفة يرون أن الله لما ثبت عندهم أنه فعال لما يشاء جوزوا على الله تعالى ما يناقض الحكمة وما هو الأمر عليه في نفسه، ولهذا عدل بعض النظار إلى نفي الإمكان والإثبات الوجود بالذات وبالغير، والمحقق يثبت الإمكان ويعرف حضرته، والممكن ما هو الممكن ومن أين هو ممكن وهو بعينه واجب بالغير، ومن أين صح عليه اسم الغير الذي اقتضى له الوجوب.
Yeah, so this gets into some technical kalam, so I don't want to really go through it in detail. If anyone wants to know more about this, you can ask me once the lesson is over, inshallah, and you can ask about it in the chat. But it's to do with a technical kalam debate and discussion. Okay. ولا يعلم هذا التفصيل إلا العلماء بالله خاصة. And no one knows the details about the mumkinat except the muhaqqaq and the knowers of God. Now, the alam, who is a true knower of God, he affirms the possibility and the possibilities. He gives them their due reality. Okay, then I'm going to read this final paragraph here. Okay, so Bismillah. وعلى قدم شيث يكون آخر مولود يولد من هذا النوع الإنساني وهو حامل أسراره وليس بعده ولد في هذا النوع فهو خاتم الأولاد. Right? So we said that there are three seals. The first seal is the seal of Muhammadan sainthood. The Shaykh Al-Akbar identifies himself with that. The second is the seal of universal sainthood. And he says that is Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. He comes back at the end of time and he closes off all the major stations, all the major paths to the higher states and stations of sainthood. Then at the end of time, there is one person who will be born along with his twin sister. You're going to see that right now. And he seals off the whole of humanity. I mean, it's interesting to talk about the issue of decreasing birth rates, but that's something else. After him, there will be no more children born. He is the last child of humanity. And he is what? هو على قدم شيثا. So he walks on the path of sheath. Now, there's two ways to use this expression. You can say that a wali هو على قدم nabi or هو على قلب النبي, right? He's walking the path of a certain prophet, or he is upon the heart of a certain prophet, and each one has its own nuance. So here the Shaykh Al-Akbar is saying that this wali is going to walk in the same path of Sayyidina Shith alayhi salam and inherit his knowledge and be upon his state. Um, and he will carry the secrets of Sayyidina Shith alayhi salam. And there's no one who will be born after him. So he's Khatam al-Awlad. He seals the human race, basically. وتولد معه أخت له فتخرج قبله ويخرج بعدها يكون رأسه عند رجليها. So I mean, if you talk about it in this much graphic detail, then you know that this knowledge can only be granted through kashf. So he sees through kashf what will happen at the end of time. And he sees how he will be born along with his twin sister, but she comes out first, and he will follow her with his head close to her feet, literally. So it's like he's seeing this happen right in front of him. ويكون مولده بالصين, right? He's going to be born in China, but I don't know if we can actually call it the China that we know. Like, someone would have to go back and understand what the Sheikh al-Akbar meant by China. It could also mean other regions too, right? I don't want to just assume that it's the China that we know, but let's just say it is China for now. وَلُغَتُهُ لُغَةْ أَهْلِ بَلَدِهِ, and he'll speak their language, right? So I think he's indicating about how certain languages like Arabic and certain cultures will be lost at the end of time, right? As time moves forward. ويسري العقم في الرجال والنساء فيكثر النكاح من غير ولادة ويدعوهم إلى الله فلا يجاب, right? And so there will be barrenness, a decrease in birth rates. In fact, not just a decrease, but a complete stop between men and women, even though they will marry one another, right, and have intercourse. There will be no children brought from them. And that's a reflection of what? If you are physically barren, I mean, obviously, this is not to talk about individual people at all, not at all. But at the end of time, if the whole of humanity is physically barren, it's because they are spiritually barren. They are spiritually barren. One is a reflection of the other. So he calls them to God, right? And they will not answer him. He calls them to God, and they will not answer him. Just like the test of the other prophets. فإذا قبضه الله تعالى وقبض مؤمني زمانه. So when Allah Ta'ala takes him, right, and he takes the believers of his time, بقي من بقي مثل البهائم. Now, there's another passage from the Futuhat. It's worth bringing here. I don't have it in front of me. It's like in the Sufi Path of Knowledge or the Self-Disclosure of God, one of Cheikh's books. But he talks about how there will be like a wind. There'll be like a wind that blows, and then that wind causes them to die. So Allah takes their souls away, and it will be taste, that death will taste like honey. It is the honey drop of death. It is the honey drop of death. And then the rest of humanity who remain, they remain as animals. Because now what's happened is that Shith alayhi salam is the last insan kamil, and then he passes away. What happens when the last insan kamil passes away and there's no more insan kamil after him?
The universe collapses, right?
Yes. So the connecting link, exactly. The connecting link that joins heaven to earth is broken. The connecting link that joins heaven to earth is broken. And so then the whole human project ceases. The whole project of the universe ceases, actually. And then what he says, انتقل الحكم إلى الآخرة. And so the property now transfers to the akhirah. And so you are now in the akhirah once he does that, right? So then he says, لا يحلون حلالا ولا يحرمون حراما. Like these people whose inner states are like animals, they don't live by the sharia by means of what is halal nor what is haram, right? They don't stay with what is halal and they don't prohibit what is haram. يتصرفون بحكم الطبيعة, right? شهوة مجردة. They are acting on purely bestial, instinctual nature, just based on their appetites, right? Just completely on their appetites. شهوة مجردة. مجردة عن العقل والشرع. Just completely separated and just immersed and engrossed by their passions, devoid of the intellect or law. Because, by the way, there's actually two paths to salvation. There are two paths to salvation. One is the Sharia, the other is the Aql. If you attend my class on Ibn Arabi's religious pluralism, you'll see that there's the path of the Aql that is accepted by God. It's called the Nawamis. They're called man-made laws, right? And then you also mentioned in the Quran, Surah Al-Mulk, right? When the gatekeeper of hell asks them, how did you enter hell? He will say, we did not listen to the messengers, وَلَا نَعْقِلُ, but we also didn't use our intellect. Because if you're someone who does not follow the path of the Rasul and the Shari'ah, the second option available to you in order for you to be saved is to use your aql. What's the jadr of aql and what does it mean?
Something about tying a knot down, tying, like making something secure by the way of something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The aqal is the rope you use to tie a camel so that it doesn't run away. What's the connection between aql and the aqal? The person who's truly aql, right? If he's truly aql, what does he tie down? What does he fetter? He fetters his biases, his prejudices, his emotions, right? He keeps them on a leash. He doesn't run with them. That's the person who truly deserves to be called intelligent. Because Aql is also intelligent, right? That person is truly intelligent. And so an intelligent person does not give free rein, does not give free rein to his shahawat. If someone gives free absolute rein to all the shahawat, he's not aql. Because he's not reining in the horse of passion or the camel of passion, right? Just doing whatever he wants to. That's how you get chaos in the world. So the person who is able to tie down his emotions and his prejudices, right? And all these other interior states that can cause one to be led astray, if he can do that, he's saved, right? Someone who acts with moderation and deliberation, right? So this is actually the path of who? One of the Greek philosophers. Who is this the path of?
Plato. Plato.
I mean, Plato's correct. Plato's completely correct. Yeah, that's not wrong at all. I had another one in mind, Aristotle. So I had in mind, but by the way, Plato's correct, because Ibn Arabi mentions Plato, by the way. He actually talks about Plato, but why Aristotle? Because Aristotle has a famous theory, but it's not so much of a theory. You can actually put into practice. It's very practical. What is it? It's the golden mean, right? What is that? So
the way of moderation.
Who takes this from Aristotle? Yes, the way of moderation. Can you explain what it is?
It's to not be swayed by one's biases, which is, what you explained earlier, and to see what are the two extremes of behaviors and to choose the one that's in between. So it requires the vision of the two extremes. regardless of where one lies on that spectrum, and choosing the middle.
So let's give an example, right? If you, okay, Aristotle talks about the acquisition of the virtues, what's called al-fada'il, right? Or what do you say, al-akhlaq, makarim al-akhlaq, acquiring the good characteristics that make you a better person, that allows you to contribute to society and build a good society. That's akhlaq, right? So you must acquire these virtues. How do you acquire them? It's the mean between two extremes. It's the mean between two extremes. So for example, if I say courage is a virtue I want to acquire and we need it in a society, what's the extreme two ends of courage?
I mean, one is cowardice, the other one is, let's say, recklessness.
Exactly, that's exactly it. Cowardice, al-jubn, is on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, so when you don't have enough of courage and you become a coward, then you don't have courage. But you can also have too much of courage. When you have too much of courage that is not mediated by just a little bit of caution, it's the same thing that cowardice is made up of, but we call it caution, not cowardice, when it's just a little bit. Then it becomes recklessness. Cowardice leads to the virtue of courage disappearing, and recklessness also destroys courage, right? Wisdom is another virtue, one of the prime virtues, the mean between pure ignorance and just gathering too much information for its own sake and not applying it. Generosity.
By the way, even courage, the root of courage is heart. Right?
Beautiful.
So going by Ibn Arabian,
That's nice. That's nice.
methodology, the heart has to be in a stable position.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Thank you so much, Huma. That's a beautiful statement. Exactly. Right. The heart is in a state of stability. And then you've got generosity. Generosity is not being, I'm going to give you everything, right? And I'm not going to be just be reckless with my money, right? So there's a word for that. It's the proper mean. So generosity, on the one end of the spectrum, you get bukhl, which is what? Miserliness. Bukhl. You won't give anything, your hand is closed. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have liberality, in which you're wasteful. It's not called generosity if you're being wasteful. It's only generosity when it meets the mean. It's not courage when you are being completely reckless. It's the mean, right? Those are the virtues. And who acquires the virtues? Who is the one who can establish the virtues in the middle? Because you have to keep them in the middle. What does that require? An aql.
Yeah.
Who has their aql? Aristotle. That's why he talks about it, because he's the man of aql. Because the aql requires you to restrain yourself from going from one end to the other, right?
So if
That's
I can,
why, sorry, see, I'll let speak in a minute. That's why, what is the mother virtue of all virtues for Aristotle? Prudentia, which is like having discernment in Buddhism. You are discerning where the extremes lie, so that you don't fall into them. Prudentia is the mother attribute, the mother virtue. Excuse me. Yeah, sorry, see, go ahead.
thank you, Professor. I was just wondering, I was just trying to, I mean, I think Sister Huma has actually indicated about the heart. What I know about the Aristotle, and as you explained very perfectly, actually, the virtuous person is a person who has learned under the tutelage of the experts who have been in the society. So basically, for Aristotle, the virtuous person is a person who has learned the art of moderation. Okay, so
Yes.
it's to do with the practices rather than a mental concept. So could you please explain or throw some light on, as Sister Huma has indicated, that heart is the seat of courage. So if I extend this argument from Sheikh Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi's arguments, it means that the seat of the virtue is heart. So could you, draw some comparisons so that we could really and try to get what Sheikh has in his mind when he talks about this?
Yeah, sure. One thing though, just to add to that, right? I'll answer your question, but just to add to that. So if you need to establish each virtue in its proper place, you're required to have wisdom, to be sagacious, to be a sage. So that's why the Shaykh al-Akbar says the wise man is he who does what is proper, for what is proper, as is proper. So he's three-dimensional. He's not two-dimensional cardboard cutout like political speeches, right? He's three-dimensional. He does what is proper, it's the right action, what is proper, the right reason, as is proper in the right way. It's only when you do it with all three dimensions that you deserve to be called wise. If you're missing one, you're not wise, right? So Sayyidina Bukhari, right? Just now, this is a huge subject, so we can't get into it right now. We can't possibly get into it. But the key to the heart and why you even talk about it is because the heart is from the word qalb wa taqallub. Taqallub, what's taqallub? Transformation. Transformation. The heart is the spiritual sensory organ that transforms and is receptive. It's qalb. It has qabuliya. It receives any state that is given to it. So if courage, the seat of courage is in the heart, it is for Sheikh Al-Akbar, if we take a strictly Akbarian perspective, it is so that the heart can know courage in all its forms. It does not say this is courage and that's not courage. It tries to know courage in all its aspects, which means it tries to master the maqamat. It tries to master the maqamat and know them all. That's the purpose of the heart. If I may say that, to recognize it in all its forms, in its diversity, in all its variations, shapes and sizes. We might say in all its mirror images. We say how we recognize ourselves in those mirror images, right? And accept them and know ourselves in them. That's why it talks about the mirror in this chapter, because the point of knowing what gifts you will receive, what the things happen to you. Oh, I remember what I once said now, alhamdulillah. Maybe 20 minutes later, I remembered, alhamdulillah. Okay. So to know yourself, right? It is in order for you to know yourself. Why? Because when you know what gifts you receive, you know yourself. And what is the maxim? What is the famous maxim? Man arafa nafsu faqad arafa rabbahu, which means he who knows himself knows his Lord. So when you know the gifts that you're receiving, you are knowing who your specific Lord is. That's one of the purposes of this knowledge, to come to know your Lord by knowing what is happening to you. By knowing what is happening to you. So it is an incredible state of meditation. It is an incredible state of meditation and contemplation you are in if you remain vigilant, if you have what's called muraqabah, if you have muraqabah of this spiritual practice, then you attain high spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is, in the plural, ulum, and knowledge of your Lord. if you pay attention to what is happening to you, because stuff happens to us all the time, right? But it doesn't mean we're paying attention. 90% of the time, our minds are switched off. But if you switch your mind on, then you see what's happening, that it's intentional. So you want to know what's the divine intention behind that? You know who your Lord is as you come to know yourself through each thing that happens to you, because each thing is a gift. Humma, then I think we'll say Bukhari, right? Then Zanira.
Yeah, sorry. So just two comments. The first one was to the brother's question about courage and cur. That is just about the etymology of the English, French, Latin word courage. I'm not sure whether in Greek the root for courage would also be in the heart. It could very well be. But then with that in mind, it still ties in with the heart as the seat of knowledge, which I'm not sure. I have not read Aristotle that well that I would know whether he thinks of the heart as the seat of learning. But in some ways, I think that moderation does require something not just of the mind but of the whole soul as well, of the way or heart as well. And the second one was Sidna, about the question about China, the last twins being born in China, and the image of the last baby boy being born at the feet of his sister is exactly a twin's birth. When the baby is coming out, the first baby that comes out, their feet are the last one to come out. So that's the sister twin. And then the next one is the
subhanAllah.
head of the baby boy, because the babies come out head first. So it really would be touching literally the feet of his sister. And
SubhanAllah.
so sometimes it's metaphoric, but sometimes it's the actual visual, physical, actual reality is even more stunning, because we sometimes forget to think of how that picture is so symbolic.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
And China could be what is now, New Turkestan, Turkmenia, Central Asian republics, the Xinjiang province, which in Chinese literally means the new province, the new territory. Actually, Xin is new.
Oh,
So and so in the story, Aladdin, he was from there. And in Urdu translations at home, we used to read he was a Chinese prince, a Muslim prince who was Chinese, but he was actually from what is now known as Xinjiang. And
SubhanAllah.
so in the Arab stories, Alif Layla, he was Alif Layla wa Layla, he was told to be from China. So that's why I'm
Yes.
thinking even that could be Chinese. And they did also speak, they were, because of the Silk Route, they were fluent in all of these languages, including Mandarin.
Yes, mashallah. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for sharing that. And CD Petro is saying the same thing. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that, Huma. But as for your first question, yes, I don't know what Aristotle says about the heart. I'm taking it as an ishara, regardless. Aristotle's probably saying something else. Okay, he's probably talking about something else. He's not talking about the heart. I don't think so. Um, so the work he writes this, and it's called the Nicomachean Ethics. Right. This is when he writes about these virtues and the golden mean. But you know what? Even though he's not talking about it, I still take the ishara. So courage, right? And ishara means there's an illusion. It doesn't mean I'm actually talking about the actual linguistic meaning, the actual literal linguistic meaning or the etymology of the word. You can take an ishara and learn from it, right? So my sheikh likes to take an ishara from Budapest. Budapest is the city, right? It's the city of which country?
Hungary.
Hungary, right? Exactly, Hungary. Thank you. And then, as an ishara, he just said Buddha is best. Anyways, so it's nice to have isharas. And then Sayyid Bukhari, right? Or actually, wait. Let me take Zanira.
Yeah, so
Zanira,
subhanAllah,
if
I
you're
was just
there, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So yeah, I was just reminded of a few connections about subhanAllah, everything that Huma shared. Thank you so much. Like, I don't know, all the dots connecting. Yeah, it was just about the root of in Greek, or I'm sorry, whatever in English, I guess. It just reminded me of the image of balance, right? Like even Aristotle's entire the principle of the golden mean it is like an image of balance in like literal, like a physical mizan. And like that's what it evokes for me. Like it's like, if courage is in the middle, and then I guess passivity or violence or whatever it is would be on the other end. And if it leans one way, then the other one becomes sort of imbalanced to the extreme. Oh, okay, I'm not making much sense, but it just reminds me of Surah Rahman, where Allah says, um, Allah تخسروا الميزان. Sorry,
Exactly.
وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان ولا تطغوا في الميزان, right? So it's like لا
Yes.
تطغوا, don't exceed the mizan, don't overdo it, don't overdo courage to the point where it becomes violence. ولا تخسروا الميزان, don't
And don't
underdo
underdo
it to
it.
the point where it becomes
Yes.
passivity. So that is Mizan. So that's obviously linked to the name Ar-Rahman. And that is the reason for which we were created, because Allah is saying all of these things, Ar-Rahman, Alam al-Quran, Khalaq al-Insan, Allah tasawwuf al-Mizan. It's like so that we created you and taught you the Quran so that you may not transgress the Mizan. So that's a very fundamental, like, um,
Yes.
raison d'être, reason for the existence of the human being, to to maintain this balance.
Mm.
And the way that Aristotle is speaking about it is the spiritual balance. And what that reminded me in terms of the heart is that there's another name of Allah, Salam, which we were studying recently. And Omar, our teacher, he told us about how salam implies, like, it means peace, right? But it also means harmony, and it implies balance. And it means, like, it requires the aleph in there implies that it requires two parties. So it's like salam between two parties. Like, there needs to be balance. There need to be two, basically, like, two parties for there to be salam. And it reminded me, so that's one kind of balance. And that reminded me about, related to what Huma said about um يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنين إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. So on that day, nothing will be helpful, not money nor sons, except for whoever comes to Allah with a qalbun salim. And so that's the same root as salam, balance, harmony, and it is literally explicitly linked with the qalb. So that means the qalb is the place of balance, whether that is of courage or any other virtue.
MashaAllah. Oh, very good. Very good. Thank you so much, Zanira. Exactly. So heart is the place of balance. I think that's good to remember. Maham, go ahead.
Yeah, just to build on Homa and Zanira's point, like the heart as being the seat of courage actually makes a lot of sense because, like we said, there needs to be discernment, right? Like discernment and true
Yes.
knowledge, like actualized knowledge and understanding. And the
Yes.
Quran talks about the people of true understanding. They're called ulul
Yes.
albab, right? And
Yes.
albab, like the root of it is lam ba, which is it's the meaning of it, which that I've seen is like it's the heart of the heart. It's like this place inside the heart that's like stable, and that is kind of like the seat of where you receive, like once you attain humility and true taqwa and like and purity, then you receive from Allah true understanding and like the tawfiq to be able to have like somebody like that, and so you then gain the status of ulul albab. And when you have that true understanding and true knowledge, then you can be more discerning and you can temper yourself and you can kind of so. And the image that that actually gives me is the fact that like our qalb is like in like a state of flux, but then there's like a stable center, and it reminds me a lot of like an atom where it has like a stable nucleus, and that would be kind of like in the heart, that would be like the that seat of like understanding, like the root. And then around it there's like this field of like electrons and stuff that's in flux. They can change states, like depending on if you give them energy, they can jump orbits and they can change the molecule itself can change shape and it can like transform. And that's kind of like the state of our heart. And like our heart, like the outer version, like the outer layers of our heart are the ones that are kind of in flux, and those are the ones that can be influenced this way or that way depending on what we feed them. But then there is a stable nucleus at the center of it, and that is what we have to kind of try to reach and nurture.
Interesting. So subhanAllah. It's like a reflection. Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, Jazakallah khairan. Yeah, exactly. It's about stability. And the very last line of the fuss is فَعَلَيْهِمْ تَقُومُ السَّاعَةُ. And so the hour will dawn upon them. These are the ones upon whom the hour will dawn, because there's no insan camel left on the earth to join heaven and earth together. And with that, we have finished the fuss. And I apologize for skipping this paragraph. If I find an easier way to explain it, I will do so in the WhatsApp chat, and I'll just send you guys a voice note. But it's not worth going through live, anyways, I think. But if I can, I will explain it in a voice note on WhatsApp. Yeah, Huma, go ahead.
Sorry, I did not mean to have my hand up. I was just typing party at the golden mean of our earth.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Bless you, Sidna. That was an amazing, amazing teaching. Bless you. Bless you.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I wanted to ask something earlier, and it was just about
Go ahead.
You know, you've got this whole, the whole new age thing about creating your reality, this whole.
Yes.
So, and we know we've talked about the himma and where the awliya can be really, and they can focus on something and they can bring it into different types.
Yes.
So, but how does that relate to, everything is from us to us, from Allah to us, and then this idea that we create our own reality as it is seen in a general,
You know
like
what? So what's happening is, if I have understood this correctly, you're talking about something else, but that's a great thing. We should talk about it. What's happening with this element, this science, is that the way I see it is that it's meant to be taken passively, because the new age, let's call it technique of manifestation, and manifesting what you want is active. This is an active exercise, which is why you mentioned himma. This does not mention himma in any place, except for where the wali knows that Allah wants to grant this himma to him as a gift, so he may use it for a certain purpose, and so he does it. But this science is more about you contemplating what's happening to you, and you see and you take it as a gift. By the way, thank you, Hannah. I just want to mention this one small point, and then I'll answer your question. So that reminds me, by the way. So if everything that comes to you is a gift from yourself, but it's also a gift from Allah, right? Should you take everything that comes to you from Allah or not?
No.
Yeah, that's correct. Why?
Because some things, it's like when you look at Surah Kahf, right? Like there's an adab of how we interact with and think about Allah and stuff. And sometimes there are things that really are manifestations of kind of our own blocks or our own behavior or something like that. And it's kind of like a lower version or something that is not fit to be attributed to Allah. So really understanding that and kind of knowing that, because at that point when it becomes kind of like what Shaitan did, right? Like, you made me do that. I didn't want to do that. You made me do it. And it's like, okay, really?
Okay,
like,
so you mentioned
accountability.
So you mentioned Shaitan, right? Good, exactly. So Allah is Ism al-Jama'. That is the Ism that gathers all the Asma together, including what? For example, Al-Mudil, the Misguider, or the Jalali names. So thank you, Maham. That's exactly it. So Shaitan is also a manifestation of one of Allah's names, which is Al-Mudil, the Misguider. So you don't take everything that comes to you from Wujud, which is Allah, because some of it is harmful. And there are aspects of yourself that you don't go there. There are aspects of yourself you shouldn't peek into, lest it harms you, right? We all have what Imam Ghazali calls an inner pig and an inner dog, right? Which is the quwwat shahwaniyya, the faculty of desire, what's called the concupiscent soul, and the quwwat al-ghadabiyya, right? The faculty of anger, which is called the irascible soul. You need these two in balance, but um, if you kind of like open the door to these places and you see things you shouldn't see, then you actually become a big mess. So you don't take everything that comes to you from wujud. Someone says, here's some drugs. Do you take it? No, right? Even though it's all from Allah, technically speaking, right? Now, do you take everything from Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam?
Oh, surely, yes. He's our example.
Yeah, absolutely. So then Sheikh Al-Akbar says something really, really cool. He says, so just look at the way Allah ordered this affair for you. Allah is unlimited, but He made your taking from Him limited. But Rasulullah is a limited being. But what did He do? He made your taking from Rasulullah unlimited. Isn't that a cool symmetry? Allah is unlimited, but He told you only to take from Him limited. But Rasulullah is a limited being, of course, but you take from Him, make your taking from Him unlimited.
Because he's Rahmatul lil Alameen. So he has the all the Jamali qualities, right? He is literally made for this purpose, for us to learn from him infinitely.
Exactly.
Without being divine, right? We're not mimicking the divine, we're mimicking somebody made for us to follow.
Yes. So that means whatever He gives you, it's all safe, it's all good. So that's beautiful and wonderful. That's why He is your safe space. Anyways, in wujud. But Hannah, just answer your question. So manifestation is a different ilm. This ilm of seeing everything as yourself and as gifts coming towards you, to you from Allah. And you have to understand how to receive this gift appropriately through knowledge of the Sharia. But it's mainly a science of contemplation, right? And muraqabah, right? And you respond to it appropriately, and then you gain knowledge. Manifestation is a ilm that is derived from another prophetic inheritance. It comes from the inheritance of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, because you correctly attributed to that ilm himma. Himma. And Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam used to use himma a lot. As did other prophets, and they used it appropriately. That's one of the meanings of the word Quran, by the way. Because the word Quran, the Shaykh Al-Akbar gives it different meanings. First is the revealed book. Then there's a second meaning. You'll come to it in the next fas Nuh. I won't say it now. The third meaning is himma. 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 That's one of its meanings. You gather together your internal energies to make something you want happen and make it happen. Right? So that's why in the Quran, Allah says, by the Quran, He guides many. And what does He say after that? And by it, He also what? He also misguides many, right? يهدي به كثيرا ويضل به كثيرا, right? That's in the Quran. So one of the meanings is that this prophetic gift of manifestation, He misguides many people by it. Because the people are using that gift of manifestation for their own purposes, not as how Allah set it down for them in the Sharia, right? So it's one, it's real, it's a real thing. And two, it's actually they don't realize that it's an ilm that is prophetic, and it's like you're playing with fire because you may not necessarily know what you're doing with it, and there are consequences that come with it. So Hannah, did that kind of answer your question, or am I a bit off?
No, definitely answered my question. That and that what you said, the last thing about the, it's like playing with fire is there's always, when I think about those things, there's always that sense of, oh my gosh,
Yes.
what am I going? Well, anyway. So yes, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah. Thank you. That was really good. Thank you.
Allah yabarak fiki. Yes, Homa.
So in that sense, the Quran would be like Allah in that way, where He is the way we expect Him to be, the way we individually construct Him in our mind. He appears to us in that manifestation, in that way, in that tajalli. And the Quran Pak also, within the Quran, it says that you will find, there are people who read the Quran and then they'll go away with hatred, with fear, um, they
SubhanAllah.
do not take the beauty of the Quran. They do not see it in it because that's not what they were bringing to it. So
Yes.
I think it has to depend what's inside our soul that we then find reflected in the Quran. And if you bring beauty to the Quran, if you bring wisdom, love, you will see that even in the ayats of fear, of descriptions of Qiyamah, you will still see beauty. Does that make any sense?
No,
Because
it makes complete sense.
right, and in Urdu poetry,
That's
some of
why
the
you're asked to
most
do tazkiyat al-qalb.
exactly, and even the height of justice in Urdu revolutionary poetry. Sometimes people think of it as communist poetry, which to me is actually completely Quranic. Is the description of uh, perfect justice is really about mountains flying away, and
MashaAllah.
these are descriptions taken from the Quran of the day of Hashr, the day of
Yes.
Qiyamah.
Yes. Yes. Yes,
So
absolutely.
we find beauty in that.
We absolutely do. And by the way, your allusion to the idea that God manifests himself in accordance with your own expectations of him, that's another
Yeah,
thing we'll come on to definitely in like Fas Hud and Fas Muhammad. And other
inshallah.
places in the Fusus, it's everywhere. It's
Can I
called
just ask you something?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, from this fast, we say, and everything is a gift from God.
Yes.
Even the so-called bad things are gifts from God. Is that right?
If you take it that way, yes. Everything that comes to you. And according, so this is the knowledge from this fast. Yes,
Yes,
correct.
but what do you
This
mean everything that
like
comes to you?
this,
Like,
yeah.
I'm not very sure. What do you mean everything that comes to you is a gift from God? Yani, yeah, can you say what do you mean everything that comes to you?
Absolutely everything.
Like,
Absolutely everything.
like everything in our day, our inner world and
Yes.
outer world, everything is a gift.
Yeah, yes.
And so-called bad things like temptations to jealousy, anger, all those are from God. Yeah.
I mean, according to the perspective of this knowledge, yes, it is. But you have to have the scale of the Sharia to help you out. But you call it like a gift, right? Because here's the thing, right? Like, let's say temptation or shaitan comes to you, right? Now, another perspective would say, no, that's not a gift. Okay, and then you reject the shaitan. But in this perspective, you say, no, it's a gift, and I reject him because that is the acceptance of the gift. Because once I reject him, I get a reward for it. I learn something
Sorry,
from it.
just your
I gain
voice
new
went
knowledge
off.
from it.
Your voice went off. So yes, it is from God, but
Yeah,
so the idea is that God wants you to reject it so that there's a reward.
And then the reward is a gift.
The reward is a gift. Okay. And as if I heard you, but then you said God هو المذل. المذل, by the way, isn't it like humiliation? Because I thought you said something else instead of
No.
humiliation.
مع ضاد
مضل
المضل
مضل. Okay.
مضل.
So
Yeah.
God هو المضل. Okay, هو المضل.
الهادي هو الهادي والمضل.
الهادي والمضل. Okay. So when okay. So what do you do? I'm just gonna ask something else. Like, I've
Sure.
learned through some, some things that I've studied and learned that when you have those feelings of whatever anger, jealousy, temptation,
Yeah.
a certain way to deal with it. I'm just curious, what's your view of, or the Ibn Arabi view, or the Islamic view of how to deal with those things? Like literally, how to deal with it. Like right now, you're very angry, or you're very jealous, or you're hating someone. So we can just say reject it, but how? Is there a way? What's the way to deal with it?
This is too big of a question for me to answer
Okay, no, I just thought there might be a
in
way
just
because
just a few minutes.
there's like in
But
certain ways they say just observe that you have that feeling. I thought there might be a quick, like go and pray or do dua or something like that. I didn't think it was a big question, but okay.
no, it's a huge question. It's a huge question, mashallah. Um,
No, I just thought
but
the answer would be like I didn't think it's a big question. No,
yeah,
but there is nothing like a quick answer. Like just do dua or the Islamic or Ibn Arabi way. That's why I'm asking.
what's a quick answer I can give?
Can
The
I-
quick answer does not come to my mind, unfortunately, because I have a slow
Okay,
mind.
that's fine.
a
That's
quick
fine.
one.
I,
I've got a quick
I have a slow mind. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Our Sheikh always says, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim" 3 times, spit over your shoulder, and have a ghusl if you're really angry, and even if you can have a cold ghusl, pray 2 rakahs. That's a really simple, quick one. Do
Okay.
istighfar and salawat. Bismillah.
Istighfar and salawat. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes. And this is like the domain of so many people who are like experts in these things, like Yusuf Jah, Idris Watts. Like you should look out for their content. Like they've got like very useful advice and stuff. This is definitely their domain and territory. But so that's like the quick fix, right? The quick thing to do in the moment, right? The longer fix, the longer term fix is to realize that there is no evil in existence. It has no foundation existence. فَالشَّرُ هُوَ مَعْدُوم. It's non-existent. All you have is what is good. So the things, the qualities that you're talking about, jealousy and anger and stuff, those are good qualities that are misplaced for a reason. They become diseased and they require like an alchemical cure, a slight healing, because their foundation is good. That's why the Shaykh Al-Akbar says that the so-called bad character traits, the reality is they're good character traits. So Muhammad said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأَتَمَّمْ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was only sent, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأَتَمَّمْ, to complete and perfect the noble character traits. Why does it say لِيَتَمَّمْ, to complete them? Because all the prophets brought the good character traits. You should be generous, you should be halim, you should be patient. They brought all the good characteristics. But what they didn't do, what Muhammad did was he even brought the bad characteristics and showed you how they can be transformed into good characteristics.
Yes, I think I agree, and I think that's what I think too. And it's like you said, it's like alchemy. It's a life force that's misguided.
Yes.
So you guide it
It's
in a different
misguided,
way.
right?
Yes, yes.
So
Sure.
like for example,
Thank you.
but it's like just anyways, this is a very big topic, so I won't go on. But like I'll just give one example. Arrogance is a horrible character trait, right? But
Right.
if you have the impulse, right, and you wanted to give it a place to breathe, then there's an example of Abu Dujana, who was strutting, right? There's a word for it in Arabic, but I don't have it right now. But he's strutting between the battle lines, saying to the enemy, "Who wants to face me?" So then Rasulullah said, Allah hates that quality, which is arrogance, except in this place. Except in this place.
Sorry, what was the
And
place?
then there's greed. In battle.
He likes arrogance. God likes arrogance in battle. So, and it has a place, then it's in battle.
Yeah. If it's done in the right way, it's a very specific way. You have to do it in a specific way.
Yes,
And if you do it in a specific way, then actually this feeling you have of arrogance, it's acceptable in that place, in that one place, right?
Yes, just like anger, there is a place for anger, I think. Also.
And there's a place for anger. There's even a place for greed, right? There's a place for being eager, what's called haris, right? So, right, there's a man who wanted to join the jama'ah in the masjid, but he was late, so he did the ruku' outside of the sufuf, because you have to join the saf, right? He did the ruku' outside the sufuf. So Rasul, after he finished the salah, he went to him and, no, listen, you have to join the saf, but may Allah increase you in hirs. May Allah increase you in hirs. And then he says in the Quran, harisun alaykum. Rasul, he's haris alaykum. He's eagerly concerned for your sake. So all the bad character traits, they have a way of being used in the Sharia, and when they're used properly, it's lawful, and you've given an outlet to those character traits. You're never asked to not use them completely mutlaqan. You're only asked not to use them in a certain way. That's the longer term answer.
Thank you.
Zanira, you're welcome. Okay, so I'll just take Zanira, and then we'll call it the night, inshallah.
Yeah, I was just reminded, I don't know, it's just a lot of Urdu stuff is coming up today. So I was reminded of something about courage in the heart. In Urdu,
Yeah.
we have a word, sher dil, which means someone who has the heart of a
Yes.
lion. And that means someone who's courageous. And it reminded me of, here it says in Surah Al-Muddathir, Allah is describing the mujrimeen, and he says, كأنهم حمر مستنفرة فرت من قسورة.
Yes.
That they're like donkeys running from a lion.
Yes.
And also what Homa said about, and then it goes on to say, كلا بل لا يخافون الآخرة. And it's thinking about
Yes.
how courage doesn't actually just mean not having any fear at all, because Allah is blaming them for being, I guess, not courageous, like the lion. But at the same time, he's
Yes.
saying, بل لا يخافون الآخرة. But they should have fear of the akhirah. And but it also reminded me of this really beautiful shame in Urdu that I read. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say it, even though just because there's at least 3 people here
Sure
that
thing.
are gonna appreciate the original. But it also, because Huma said that there's people that can see, I guess, even Jamal in the in Qiyamah, and it reminded me of this share which it's lines of poetry where it says, "Diwana diwangi ne badi baat keh gaya, mahshar ki ghadi ko mulaqat keh gaya," which means that the insane person, or but it means insane in a good way, insane in the love of God. He said something really deep. He called the mahshar, but basically mahshar is hashar. He called hashar. He called the moment of hashar the moment of meeting, mulaqat. So instead of how we fear hashar, he called it the time that we meet God.
MashaAllah,
Because that's
beautiful.
how he sees it. He sees it as a meeting, as a day of meeting, not as the day of fear.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Allah barak fiki. Thank you, Zanira, so much. Okay, Huma, last question, and we'll call it night.
Sorry, yeah, just the word divana that I'm just used. The root word is dev, which is goes both into deity, theo, God, the one who has God in him or is like God. So in a divine state, though in after reversion to Islam, the word acquired a more negative connotation of being crazy or mad, or the word Dev also acquired jinn like quality rather than God like quality. That was it.
MashaAllah. Thank you very much. Okay, people. I don't know how many sessions we spent on Fuss Sheath, but we did it. Thank you so much for joining me. So that means in 2 weeks now we can start Fuss Nuh. And yeah, good job to all of you. MashaAllah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Bye.
good night.
Good night. Bye.
Jazakallah khair for